So everyone should be having a wonderful day. And we have been talking about Shmitas Kesafim, the release of debts at the end of the sabbatical year, maybe at the beginning of the sabbatical year. We'll get to that later. And we have been leading up to the Pruzbul. And Pruzbul, as we learned when we were learning at the Pesukim, is when someone gives their documents to the Beis Din. They give their loans to the Beis Din, and then the Beis Din can collect them and give them to you, so you can collect it at any time, because it's not an individual loan, it's a communal loan. So the Mishnah in Shvi'it says, Pruzbul eino mishamit. If there is a Pruzbul, the debt is not released. Say echad min hadvarim she'iskin Hillel hazakén. This is one of the things that Hillel hazakén established. Kשראה שנמנעו העם מלהלוות זה לזה, when he saw that people were refraining from lending each other money, ועוברין על מה שכתוב בתורה, and they were transgressing what it says in the Torah, ישמר לך פן יהיה דבר עם לבבך בליעל, you should guard yourself lest there be something disgusting, evil in your heart that says כשראה שנת השבת שנת השמיטה, that the 7th year is coming, the Shemitah year, and I won't be able to collect my debts back, so I won't give loans to those that need it. Hiskin Hillel Pruzbul. Therefore, Hillel established the Pruzbul so that people could continue to get loans when they need it. So the Gemara in Gitin asks, Iכא, Miday, Dmd'oreiйтא mishamט, Shvi'it. Is it possible that we have something that by Torah law, the sabbatical year releases the debt? The Hiskin Hillel de lo Mishamta, and Hillel established that this debt isn't released. Amar Abaye. Abaye says, but Shvi'it b'zman hazeh. It's talking about Shmita in our times. Rabba Amar. Rabba says, Hefker based in Hefker. The reason is because in the Beis Din has the power to declare property ownerless. So it declares it ownerless, and it gives it to the person that originated the loan and takes it away from the person who received the loan. So normally in the Machlokas Abaye and Rava, the halacha follows Rava, except for 6 cases. When the Gemara says halacha Abaye b'yal kagam, the halacha follows Rashi in the 6 cases of yal kagam, and it follows Abaye in Al Kagam, and Rashi and Baba Mitzi explains this is a siman for a series of halachas. Yehu shelo midas, if you give up ownership without knowing it, meaning if I lose something and someone else finds it, they have to return it to me unless I gave up hope of ever seeing it again. Now, what if I drop it in Times Square? As soon as I realized I've dropped it in Times Square, I'm going to give up on it. But I haven't reached back for my wallet yet to realize I've lost it in Times Square. So does the fact that is when that occurs retroactively from the time I dropped my wallet, I knew that I wasn't going to get it back or not? So that's a machlokas Abaye and Rava, and we follow Abaye. Eid zomim l'mafreya hu nifsal, that an eid zomim, a conspiring witness, he's not only, or is he invalid, not retroactively before he committed the sin of being a conspiring witness, whereas only from here forward that he is a conspiring witness. Lechi ha'omed me'alav be'eruvin. If I build a doorway to block off someplace for carrying on Shabbos, and the mezuzos, the doorposts, don't reach the lintel, is this valid or not? That's a debate between Abaye and Rabbi. Kedushin shalodi mesiru l'biyah. The kuf is marriage that cannot be consummated. Is it a valid marriage or not? Kilui das begitin. If I make something known without saying it specifically in terms of a get, can I invalidate the get that way? Mumar ochel nevelos lahachis. Pasal inyan edis. If someone is a heretic and they're eating treif to annoy God, not because they like treif, just because they want to annoy God, is he invalid for witness? In which case is he and is not valid as a witness in Sanhedrin? But normally, we would, so since this is not one of those 6 cases, we would expect the halacha follows Rava, and it's because of Hefker based in Hefker. The Rambam in his Paris Mishnah says, Iכא מידי דמדאורייתא משמטא שביעית. Is it possible that we have something from the Torah, the Shemitah releases the dead? Uminta'akein Hillel delo tashmit, and Hillel established that it would not be released. Ubiaro, and we explain, Shetkanis Hillel Einu ela b'shvius b'zman hazeh chida rabbanan. And we explain that this Hillel's takana is only in our times when the Shemitah is rabbinic in origin. So the Rambam seems to be paskening like Abai and not like Rava. The Ravid on the Rambam in the halachas of Shemitah, not in his Paris Mishnah, says Aval Shemitah shel Torah, but in the Rambam says if the Shemitah is from Torah law, that the Pruzbul doesn't work. The Ravid says Amar Abraham. Zay Eino mechaber. This does not seem correct. Does not seem clear. T'bai huda Amar hachi, because it's Abai that said this. Aval Rava palig va'amar Hefker based in Hefker, but Rava says the reason is because of Hefker based in Hefker. V'halacha nocheg b'kol zman, and therefore the halacha would apply in all time. And as we've seen, according to Tosfos very clearly, Shemitah during the Second Temple time was of Torah origin, and therefore, when Hillel established Pruzbul, it was in a time when the Shemitah released debts from the Torah, not from the rabbis. So it would seem that Tosfos and the Ravid would be in line with each other, that the Pruzbul works in our time. And as we saw when we were looking at the commentaries on this parsha in Chumash, that there were many commentaries that said that if you give over, that they understood the psukim in the Torah, that if you give over the base to the Din, because it says, Me'achicha tishmat yedecha, that from your brother it releases the loan and not from the congregation. The Kesef Mishnah was written by Rabbi Yosef Karo, the same as the Shulchan Aruch. He tries to explain the Rambam as follows. Rabbeinu nirei shemifarish kafi Tosfos. It appears that our rabbi explains like the Tosfos. Delokai ela lami Eika midi demaraisa lo mishamta, for abundant tiknu delishamit, that there are things that from the Torah aren't released, and the rabbis established that they would be released. V'tekaima dekevan she'ein hamamon biad do hifkiruhu, but since the money isn't in his hands, therefore the Din declared it ownerless. Aval lahotzi miyado shelo kedin Torah, but to remove it from his hand entirely, not like the Torah law. Kolomar ilu haisa shmitas kasavim deraisa, as if the release of debts were from the Torah. Lo have mitkane lahotzi miyado al yedei hefker. A person could not do this through, could not use a pruzbul if the Shemitah were from Torah law. So the Kesef Mishnah seems to be saying that the reason why we paskin Abaye is because Rava is explaining Abaye, not disagreeing with Abaye. Meaning, Rava is saying the reason why you can say that the Pruzbul works when Shemitah is not from Torah law is because the Din declared it ownerless, and that's why he is released from the debts rabbinically. And so the Din doesn't have to declare it ownerless, and he doesn't have to be released from the debts rabbinically. So the Mishnah in Shvi says, Hamal v'alamashkan v'mosim shtar sav lebeistin and mishamit. It seems to say if you lend on collateral or you give the documents over to a Din, Shemitah does not release the debts. And the Mishnah doesn't seem to distinguish between the fact as whether it's from Torah law or the rabbis. And the Sifrei and the Yerushalmi say, Asachicha tishmat yedecha v'lo Din, something that's given to your brother and not to Din. So we see there's a different way of looking at Pruzbul. And so let's go back to Hillel. When Hillel established it, according to Tosfos Uda Ame and those shitas that follow that, Shemitah existed during the Second Temple from Torah law. And so what did Hillel do? So up to Hillel's time, the Beis Din didn't want to accept documents. They didn't want to accept the debts to do. They felt everyone should have the midah of vatranus, of giving things up, and be willing to say, you know what, it's really HaKadosh Baruch Hu's, I will forego this. And so they refused to accept documents that people wanted to give them, debt, loans, and so on, that people wanted to give them to release, so that they could collect them after the end of the Shemitah. And Hillel, when he saw people weren't loaning, he said, you know what, I will make the takana that the Batei Din have to do this act of accepting the Pruzbul and issuing the Pruzbul and so on, so that the poor will be able to get the loans that they need, instead of, even if they have to pay them back, it's better than not being able to get the loan at all. If, however, you hold like the Rambam, that Shemitah during Second Temple times was rabbinic, then on the rabbinic enactment that released the debts, Hillel said that even though the debts are released rabbinically, based upon the principle of Hefker based in Hefker, that the rabbis can say that these debts are ownerless now, the money that was owed, Shimon's money is now no longer belongs to Shimon, so he can't collect it back from Reuven. And therefore, we are enacting a rabbinic Shemitah. Hillel said, you know what, if someone won't give loans because of this, and we see that most people won't give loans because they will not be able to collect them back, therefore we will institute this idea of Pruzbul. Now, if so, what do we do with the Sifrei and the Yerushalmi of Esachicha Tishmat Yidecha, that velo Beis Din, meaning it's only to an individual and not to Beis Din, which seems to be implying that this is Torah law? They would say this is a smachta ba'alma, that it's a hint. It's not a real law. The rabbis used that drasha to enable them to establish this law as it is. But really, from Torah law, such a thing as Pruzbul could not exist. Everyone should have a wonderful day.